because it's not sufficiently accurate to describe them as the right-wing bloc, considering that one of the most important right-wing parties joined the 62-seat opposition bloc. So the opposition bloc, as you put it, runs from a sort of nationalist right-wing party, which is the party of Avigdor Lieberman, all the way through to the Joint List, which is the party representing the majority of Arab Palestinian citizens of Israel, and the sort of Zionist left, the merged party of Labor, Gesher, and Meretz, which is now no longer. We have lots of former parties, and so those 62 seats, were united in the desire to put the country on a different track and replace Netanyahu and change the direction of where the country was going, but they had no unified vision over what that direction should be. As a result, they did manage to unite for one moment, which was to recommend that Gantz be given the mandate to form the government. And that was an unusual alliance. Even that moment of, for example, Lieberman's party agreeing with the Joint List to make that recommendation. I think that, those parties took a risk in doing that. I should also point out they were at that point not even 62 seats anymore, because one of that 62-seat bloc had already essentially taken herself out and defected. Now she has formally defected to the right-wing bloc. Anyway, Gantz had the mandate. He was under too much pressure from other right-leaning figures in the opposition group to be able to consider forming a government without Likud. It would have been a minority government, hopefully, or if it had been established, it would have had the support of the Joint List in a vote of confidence. But he didn't seem to have the courage to do that. He was worried about these sort of right-leaning members of the opposition party. And then, as you mentioned, instead of trying to take that route, he agreed to go into a unity government with Netanyahu, which created such a rift within his own party. Remember, his own party is a coalition of 3 other parties, like many parties in Israel. They broke apart, as you pointed out. 2 of those factions stayed within the opposition. Gantz's faction was joined by the 2 right-leaning defectors, the 2 right-leaning figures within Blue and White who never wanted the unity government. They joined him. And so ever since March 26, there has been an assumption that was the major compromise, that was the breakthrough. Like it or dislike it, whether you voted for him or not, at least there would be a government. But since then, strange things have happened. The 2 sides have been unable to agree. The idea of a unity government between Likud and Blue and White, and presumably the other Netanyahu loyalist parties, hit a deadlock. As far as we know, and I think we'll talk about this later, the deadlock came over one very technical issue of how the judicial appointment committees would be managed in Israel. And so this is what both sides are reporting was the final kind of sticking point, where Likud wanted more control. Blue and White said, we will not let them have that control. That would be changing how the judicial appointment committees are run. And everybody thinks there's other political forces at play. Maybe Netanyahu doesn't really want this deal. But I think that hopefully we'll talk about later why, of all the major issues going on now, the nature of the judiciary and this technical issue of the judicial appointment committees became